Hello, my name is Ann Macklett, and I work as a staff development specialist at the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development Vocational Rehabilitation Services Division, and I am here with Kate Eifrig. Welcome to our bite-sized disability learning modules called Mental Health Matters, Let's Talk. To begin this module, we felt it was important to explain why this and other disability modules for businesses were created. Disabilities affect 25% of Americans and influence today's drive for a strong economy and diverse workforce. The intent of these modules is to help businesses in their disability inclusion efforts and to provide disability education that is simple, impactful, and relatable. Each module is just 20 minutes or less and can be delivered either virtually or in person at a team meeting or huddle. The goal of these modules is to further your work group's understanding of various disability topics and ways of creating an inclusive work environment to successfully hire, onboard, and retain employees with disabilities. Today's module is just one in a series. We encourage you to watch them all to learn more about the opportunities in this disability inclusion space.
Hello, my name is Kate Eifrig, and I am a communications professional who has worked in the disability advocacy and mental health advocacy fields for over a decade.
As we present today's module, we want to begin the conversation with this statement: you are not alone. Mental health affects millions of people in the US every day. As you can see here, 1 in 5 adults, as well as 17% of youth ages 6 through 17 experience a mental illness. Given those statistics, it would be safe to say approximately 20% of the people listening to this module may have a mental health diagnosis or are supporting someone living with a mental health condition. Mental health conditions do not discriminate by race, color, religion, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, or age. Further, individuals can experience symptoms at any time or at any stage in life. With all of this in mind, this module is designed to provide basic knowledge about mental health, mental illness, and some common warning signs to pay attention to. With the time that we have, we know that we will be just touching the surface on this important topic that is often not talked about. However, our goal is to raise awareness and to provide some ideas on how to talk about it. We want to identify some different ways for you to approach conversations with individuals who might have a need for mental health support without trying to be the expert. We hope to give you practical information to help increase your comfort level in making it okay to talk about mental health and mental illness, making us all become kinder professionals. So let's start with a couple of clarifying definitions, which are important for this module: mental health and mental illness. Mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which a person realizes their own abilities and can cope with the typical day-to-day stress of life, work effectively and productively, and contribute to their community. As we think about how we manage our physical health, often by paying attention to what our body needs, along with recognizing any warning signs or changes that come up, good mental health requires the same thing. However, even with paying attention to these things, our wellness and how we feel day to day can be influenced by hereditary, environmental, and situational factors that are at times outside of our control.
Mental illness, on the other hand, is defined as a diagnosable illness that affects a person's thinking, emotional state, and behavior, and also disrupts a person's ability to work, carry out other daily activities, and engage in satisfying personal relationships. To provide some examples of these effects, someone who is living with mental illness may have difficulty sleeping at night, making it hard for them to get out of bed in the morning. A person may have low energy, affecting their motivation to go to work or cook for themselves. An individual could be anxious or depressed in a way that affects that person's interests or ability to interact with others. Sometimes you won't notice how people's mental health is being affected by mental illness. Personally, I am considered a high-functioning person with major depression, so other people might not notice the effects of the illness so distinctly. In thinking about the nature of mental illness, it can look different for each person. Even two people with the same diagnosis can have very different symptoms. Mental illness is often described as long-term and ongoing, and is something, even with treatment, that you live with. It can be episodic, seasonal, and/or cyclical. It can be chronic or situational. It's often invisible from the people around you, making it more difficult to show or talk about what you are experiencing. One example of a cyclical, episodic, and invisible mental health condition is seasonal affective disorder. With this condition, symptoms can come and go unexpectedly and are exacerbated by certain environmental conditions or triggers, such as the change in seasons and limited light. Mental health can also come alongside another medical condition diagnosis. In fact, it's often common to experience depression or anxiety when adjusting to diagnoses such as cancer, brain injury, limb loss, or other illness. Also, with every life change, people can experience a change in their mental health or well-being. Just take the pandemic as an example and how that changed people's mental wellness and their awareness of mental health conditions. Some of the more common types of mental health conditions that you may hear of include depression, anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, eating disorder, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, this list is certainly not exhaustive, and we certainly encourage you to learn about other mental health conditions not listed here. In fact, at the end of this module, we will provide you some great resources for accessing additional information about other conditions and their symptoms.
In providing some education about mental health and mental illness, we felt it would be important to spend a little bit of our time dispelling some of the myths. Myths about mental illness continue to be evident in our society. And such myths often prevent people from really understanding what mental illness is all about. So we thought we could play the role of a mental health mythbuster and share some of the facts with you. Myth number 1, people with mental illness are weak, and if they just worked harder, they could get better. Fact, mental illness has nothing to do with being lazy or weak. Many individuals diagnosed with mental illness just need resources and support to experience recovery. Further, there are a number of factors that contribute to mental illness, including biological factors such as genes, physical illness, injury or brain chemistry, life experiences such as trauma or a history of abuse, and finally, family history of mental illness. Myth 2, most people with mental illness are unemployed. As we said earlier, 1 in 5 adults experience mental illness and 17% of youth. Those numbers and/or percentages apply to the workplace as well. People with mental illness work and are just as productive as other employees. Employers who hire people with mental health conditions report attendance, punctuality, motivation, work, and job tenure equal to what they experience with other employees. Also, when employees with mental health conditions have access to and receive effective treatment, much like treating a physical condition, it can positively result in increased productivity and lower absenteeism. Myth 3, you can't successfully treat and/or recover from a mental illness. Fact, studies show that people with mental illness can and do get better. With the right supports, people can recover and get access to treatment to manage their ongoing condition. Further, there are certainly more effective treatments, services, and community support systems than ever before, and they work.
As you can see, believing in these myths and not knowing the facts can often impact a number of things. It can impact people's perceptions, where someone might underestimate a person's need for support because the condition is invisible or not believed to be real. One common reaction people might have is to downplay the diagnosis, thinking it may help the others feel better. You can hear this underestimation in statements and responses made to the individual, such as, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. There's a lot to live for. Tomorrow will be a better day. People also overestimate a person's needs when they find out someone has a mental health condition. They may assume the person can't handle any stress in their job or won't be able to work. Belief in these myths can deter a person from disclosing their mental health condition to an employer or colleague due to the fears, stigmas, or misperceptions people have about mental illness. It can also prevent a manager or employee from referring an individual to the right resources to get support to treat their mental health at a time when they need it. Mental health professionals might tell you that diagnosing mental illness isn't a straightforward science. You can't test for it the same way we can test blood sugar levels for diabetes. Each condition has its own set of unique symptoms, and symptoms of different diagnoses can often overlap. However, there are often signs, typically called warning signs, to pay attention to help someone determine if they need mental health support. So, we would like to show you a video the National Alliance for Mental Illness, or NAMI, put together to talk about the 10 common warning signs of a mental health condition. This quick minute and a half video was developed for teens, but we know that mental health affects adults in the same way. So let's watch this video.
Mental health conditions are more common than you may think. 1 in 5 youth or young adults lives with a mental health condition. Do you know the warning signs? Like feeling sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks. Severe mood swings that cause problems in relationships. Intense worries or fears that get in the way of daily activities. Sudden overwhelming fear for no reason. Or seriously trying to harm or kill oneself, or making plans to do so. Not eating, throwing up, or using laxatives to lose weight. Significant weight loss or weight gain. Severe, out-of-control risk-taking behavior that can cause harm to self or others. Repeated use of drugs or alcohol. Drastic changes in behavior, personality, or sleeping habits. Or extreme difficulty concentrating or staying still. If you see these signs in yourself or a friend, tell a trusted adult. The first step to getting help is to say it out loud.
As you can see, there are a number of common warning signs we can all pay attention to. The hardest part is when we find ourselves in a situation when someone is presenting a warning sign or making a statement related to their mental health that might suggest a need. People often don't know what to say or how to help. What would you do, or what would you say? In physical emergencies, like someone experiencing a sprain or deep cut, we often know what to do. We may feel pretty comfortable administering first aid and knowing when to seek medical attention. Mental health situations or emergencies, however, don't always feel the same way or as approachable. When thinking of these situations, we know not everyone is going to feel comfortable approaching it directly, and that's okay. But if you can respond to that person, acknowledge them and their feelings, and make it okay to talk about it, it can certainly have a lot of healing effects. We aren't asking you to be the one to fix the situation or be a mental health doctor or expert. However, you can have a real impact on the situation by allowing the person to express themselves and their need for support. Then a referral can be made to an individual who is more specifically trained to address their need.
So what do you say and how do you approach this situation? There are a number of things you can do to start the conversation. If someone says they are anxious and not doing well, you can respond in saying, "Are you okay? How can I support you? Is there anything I can assist with?" This lets the individual know you care and gives the person the chance to choose their next step and/or provide you more information. It also helps make it okay for someone to share more about their mental wellness to possibly receive support and resources. Sometimes mental health situations can show up where there may be a need for medical support, like an emergency care situation. In such situations, it is helpful to think of a response to the person's mental health need, much like that of applying mental health first aid. Many of us might have gone through a first aid course where participants learn how to work through an action plan to help someone who is injured or ill. If you remember learning CPR to aid a person found non-responsive, you would apply chest compressions, check the airway, and check for breathing. Similarly, mental health first aid, which is a nationally known and developed course that teaches someone how to respond to a mental health situation or crisis, actually provides an action plan on how to assess and support a person in such time of need. This action plan allows the person time to process and express what they need from a mental health standpoint, equipping the responder with more information on how to help. The acronym for this action plan is ALGEE, which stands for A, assess for risk of suicide or harm. And that could be by asking the question, are you thinking about harming yourself? L, listen non-judgmentally. G, give reassurance and information. E, encourage appropriate professional help. And the last E is encourage self-help and other support strategies. Whether you have or have not taken a mental health first aid course, we know that the first item of assessing for risk of suicide or harm is often a more difficult one for most people to approach or ask about. In many situations, it may not be required. However, if it is needed and you are not comfortable asking, you might then just want to reach out to an experienced medical or managerial professional to assess the risk and ask the question. It certainly is helpful to determine if there is a more urgent need, much like you might do if someone is experiencing or expressing symptoms similar to a heart attack. ALGEE is intended to give you actions to think about and to use as a way to hear what the person is saying, assess their need for support, and refer the person to the appropriate professionals and resources that can assist the individual further. Whether you ask the person if they are okay or use the mental health first aid ALGEE approach, three of the most important things you can remember to do if someone has a mental health need is to first, provide support by listening. That means give the person your full attention, try not to argue or give advice. Don't put pressure on yourself to be an expert, and just try to understand and validate that person's feeling without judgment. Second, create a safe space for open dialogue. If the person is speaking about things that might be more personal or confidential to them, ask them if they're okay speaking where they are at, or if they would prefer a more quiet and private space to talk. This will help the person feel more safe and secure. And finally, offer internal and external resources. It is helpful to know some resources that you can tap into for the person to address their needs. Some of the things you can say to assess the person's needs for resources are you interested in following up with some resources? Would you like some help? How can I help you with this? And if you don't know the resources to point them to, ask them if they want to speak with somebody who does.
Knowing some of the resources available inside or outside of your business can assist you with feeling empowered to know where to go and what suggestions you can give to that individual. Each employer may be different in the resources they may provide internally and externally. However, there are a number of places you could think about to start. An Employee Assistance Program, or EAP, might be an option within many workplaces. This is a service that can provide counseling support, education, and access to crisis lines 24/7. If you're not aware of an EAP resource at your company, you can also call other internal resources like the Human Resource or HR department. Many businesses have protocols in place to get individuals to the right staff and right phone numbers to handle the situation. HR can provide you that information. HR may also be able to provide other options, such as leave or accommodations, to assist a person in managing their mental health need. They may have access to numbers such as the National Suicide Prevention Line, 800-273-8255, a 24/7 service. Further, if it is an emergency situation, there's always the option of calling 911 too. Your company might have proactive wellness resources. That could include a wellness clinic, website, or event to access supports and resource options. There might be apps or services to tap into within your insurance plan. There are also external resources that you can access. Resources such as NAMI and the NAMI helpline. You can see the 1-800-950 NAMI number listed here. For additional educational resources on how to respond, you could also go to mentalhealth.gov, the National Institute for Mental Health, and makeitokay.org. So in summary, mental health can affect all of us at any time in our life. Becoming aware of the common warning signs and starting the conversation can be an important role to play. Asking, "Are you okay? How can I support you?" Or using the ALGE model can take the fear out of knowing what to say when you see someone needing support. And finally, remember that just by engaging in active listening and providing mental health resources, you may save a life. As a further wrap up to our module, we ask that you take a bite out of learning and have a discussion with your team. We have a takeaway card for you to reference with this assigned activity. The activity we're asking you to engage in is to discuss 3 questions as a team or in pairs. What are 3 warning signs of a mental health condition that stood out for you? Identify a response you could give to make it okay when someone says, "I'm really depressed." Find other examples at makeitokay.org/what to say. What internal and external resources are you aware of in your company and/or community for mental health support? Please pause this recording to work on the activity. Then come back as a team and share some of your reflections or thoughts surrounding these questions with the group.
If you have questions about this module or need further resources for hiring and retaining individuals with disabilities in your workplace, you can reach out to disabilityinclusion.deed@statemn.us. Here are several great resources for you to tap into related to this Mental Health Matters Let's Talk topic. There are National Alliance on Mental Illness, makeitokay.org, the Mental Health First Aid website where you can learn more about ALGE and find out where you can access this training program, Disability In's Roadmap to Mental Wellness in the Workplace with examples of employer best practices, and the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Thank you for taking a bite out of learning, getting to the core of mental health and finding ways to approach a mental health conversation will help us all to build a more disability inclusive environment.